So Mishpatim is most of the Parsha talks about laws, heavy-duty laws, and some laws are very hard to understand. So there's a certain mitzvah in this Parsha. Everyone reads it and says, how can it be? Everyone has a question. Right? Honestly, I had the same question. I was learning a sefer of Rabbi David Feinstein, and it changed my view, changed my life. Like, wow, such a beautiful insight, such a beautiful insight. So the Torah says that if a person serves himself as a slave, a Jew wants to become a slave. Why?
So desperate, that's so uneasy.
He stole something.
He might have been a thief. He cannot pay back. There's no jail sentence in Torah. We don't see anywhere. Torah says, Moshe Rabbeinu put somebody in jail for a certain amount of time because he wanted to ask Hashem what to do with him, right? But it doesn't say, the Torah never says, put him in jail.
What if he's homeless? He wants to be a slave. He's homeless.
Okay, very good. So the Torah has certain laws, what to do with a Jewish slave. There's a slavery law. But if you read it carefully, Hashem hates it when a man becomes a slave.
Because of the Mitzrayim.
Right? So it says, first of all, owning a slave is a big pain. It's not an easy job to do. You have to support him. You have to give him your food. You don't have enough food. He comes first. He has to have a place to stay. You don't have two beds. He gets your bed. Not an easy job to have a slave. The one says somebody who owns a slave, he actually owns a master for himself. You're buying a master for himself, not a slave. Don't go into slavery. But so it says you have to support him, his wife, his kids.
If you have a daughter, you have to give your daughter to the slave too.
No.
No.
You
Is
can
it married?
sell the daughter.
A female slave is different, but a male slave, Torah says if he doesn't want to leave the slavery after 6 years, maximum slavery is 6 years. If he doesn't want to leave, what does the master do? The boss, he will take him to the court. They will put a hole in his ear, and it would show him, you want to be longer slave than 6 years? Terrible. Okay, we put a hole into your ear. Everyone should know you're a slave, a real slave. The maximum of slavery would be 49 years, right? Because by Yovel, you don't have an option. You have to go free. You could go back after Yovel if you want. And how old the guy would be. But it doesn't mean you have to start with the first year of Yovel. Let's say you were 10, 12 years, 15 years slave, and Yovel hits, you're free against your will, and then after Yovel could go back if somebody wants to go back. So Rashi brings down the Gemara. Why does he have to get a punch, hole punch in his ear? Nowadays it's in. Everybody has a earring, but back in the time it was not such a good thing to have especially for a man to have for a hole in the ear. It looks very bad. It looks like slavery.
So everyone would know.
So what should everyone should know, and what should hole punch his ear? Why not his nose? Why only his ear? Right? So Rashi brings down the Gemara. Amar Yochanan ben Zakkai said, you know why? Because that ear heard on Mount Sinai, don't steal. He stole regardless, right? So let it become pierced with a hole. So that's for a thief. Not everybody becomes a slave because of a thief. Somebody just wants to make money. Doesn't have enough money, right? Can sell himself as a slave too. Same laws. So why should that ear become punched, pierced? Says Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai. Also Hashem said, you will be my slaves, my servants. You become a servant to my servants. That guy is also my slave or my servant. Torah says in Vayikra, Kili b'nei Yisrael abadim. The Jewish nation are to me as slaves. We are servants of God. We should not become servants to the servants, right? So that ear also didn't listen to what Hashem said, should get pierced. So now, next paragraph talks about when a little girl gets sold as a slave, a female servant, female slave, right? I don't know if there's a maid, it's called a maid. A maid is not somebody, it's a slave. Maid is just someone who works as a maid. A girl who's sold as a slave. What is there a word for it? Terminology for a female slave?
Concubine.
Housemaid.
Okay, so Amma, right? In Hebrew, it's Amma. If a father sells his daughter as a female slave, halacha is different, right? Torah says that
Intention for
so the year that she lives, as soon as she becomes like adult look, doesn't mean 18, maybe 11, 12, she has to go free, even though she worked only 3 years, 2 years, doesn't matter how long she worked. There is a law of if you abuse the servant, it depends what type of servant you have, a Jewish slave, a non-Jewish slave. There are different categories that they go free if you abuse them, if you hurt them. Does that apply to a female or not? The different laws, Torah says. But now, it says that if the new boss, meaning the owner of this lady right now, the young lady, did not marry her, right? Or did not redeem her, he cannot sell her anymore. He has to set her free. When she gets older, she goes free. Either you marry her, right?
or your son get married.
Or you could give it to your son, right?
This is for the female.
For a female, you have to provide clothing, food, and intimacy time for his wife. If you cannot do it, you have to let her go free, right? These laws do not apply. She cannot stay too long. She goes free much earlier than a man who becomes a slave. So, but the whole idea that a man can sell his daughter, which is less than 12 years old, to a slave is mind-boggling. Why did Torah permit such an idea? Right?
Some people did it for money.
Did it for money, for sure. Very good. So now, listen to how Rabbi Feinstein puts it together. I always bother. Oh, wow, such a harsh mitzvah. I mean, slavery in general nowadays, we have a hard time with it because the world is anti-slavery, or slavery has become a different format nowadays. We are slaves to our money, to our work, to the culture, unfortunately. But back in the time, they used to have actual slaves, owning a person. So Rabbi Feinstein says, if you look at the pasuk, Torah has two different intentions for a man and a woman, especially when they become slaves. So for a man, Hashem does not like him to stay a servant, a slave. That's why if you want to stay longer, your ear will get pierced. Hashem doesn't want it. But for a woman, it's the other way around. Hashem wants actually the lady to stay there. He says, you could marry her, or marry her to your son. She's not supposed to get out of here. I mean, Hashem doesn't want her out. If you don't want her, that's a different story. Okay, good. Why is it so? Right? Why a man? Hashem wants him to get out as soon as possible from that family. But for a woman,
has nowhere to go, maybe because her
No,
father
because of
gave her
family.
away.
Because of her family.
Uh,
To get married and have children. And I don't.
so you guys are right, but let me see what he says. Gemara says that the worst thing to do, right? So you want the list what to do when you don't have money. What do you do? There's this very famous story.
Tell me
For
about this.
a person doesn't have money, what should he do? Right? This is you have some property and you want to get some cash. What should you do to get your cash? Right? You need cash. I know there was a big story that there was a lady who went to sell her diamond ring. Went to a store and said, why are you selling your diamond ring? He said, my husband is learning in yeshiva in Kollel. We don't have enough money. This is the last thing we got. I want to sell it. I want him to stay longer and learn longer before he goes to work. I don't need a diamond ring of my wedding. So he said, I don't buy this. Go to the other store. He's a good buyer. I'm not a good buyer. She goes to a different store, and this happened in Manhattan, right? The other store gives a very high price, 10 times higher,
This guy gave.
right? And she goes home happily. He said, I can go buy the diamond back again. He gave me so much money. Then, they find out later on that the first owner realized that these people don't have enough money. So I didn't want her to lose the money. And he told the other guy, you buy it with a higher price. I'll compensate you. Don't worry. Just get these people need money. So the Mesrut Nefesh of this lady, the husband should stay in learning. So Gemara says, first, sell whatever items you have in the house, chair, table, your gold, whatever metaltalin. That means like movable items. That's the first thing you get rid of when you need cash, right? Then go to your business, karka. You have a piece of land, a field that you make money off of it. Sell that. That's number two.
That's
Then
when you don't have money.
right. If you got rid of all your metaltalin, all your items, movable items, then you go to karka, go to your land, then go to your house. Doesn't have money, sells his house third. Number four, the daughter. And number five, you borrow money with rebate, with interest. So, borrowing rebate, also this Parsha is the worst thing a person could do.
That's the last.
Worse than marrying, selling your daughter as a
ببخشید number 4 چی بود؟
To
Your
get,
daughter
Selling your
to
daughter.
borrow money with interest.
the worst thing a person could do. It's your life because everything you have, you're going to go in debt. You already don't have your house, your land, your items, and you're borrowing cash with interest. Interest is never ending. Unless there's a business investment together, something you make money. But borrowing, how are you going to pay it back? I think.
یعنی دخترتون میگه بفروش. Did I hear it correctly?
Right. That's the fourth thing a person should do. Fifth thing, doesn't have money. What can he do? Then borrow money. So just shows.
ببخشید به کی بفروش دختر؟ یعنی ازدواج به دختر
No,
یا
no.
حالت
As a slave.
به حالت یعنی
She's 6 years old. She's going to become a servant in someone's house. She goes, slavery. برده.
It's like a
خب
foster.
چرا پسرشو نفروشه؟ چرا دخترش بفروشه؟ I don't understand.
پسرش برای کار کنه. The boy should be working, right? What can you going to make money? That the owner of the house will give her $1,000. I take your daughter as my servant. So now, what's the point? The point is this guy doesn't have money, doesn't have any items, doesn't have a land, doesn't have a house. Very bad, very big, bigger.
Do they call him Anab? Is that Anab?
No, ani.
Ani.
Yeah, real ani, not ani. Evion. He has lost everything, but he has nothing in his pocket. So now, so why did Hashem give such an option? You could have slave, a female slave. You know why? Says Rabbi David Feinstein, Hashem wanted to do kindness with the father. If he's such an ani that he doesn't have anything to sell, because Gemara gave a list. First, you go with your items, with your land, go with your house. What's left? So if he had anything else in the house, he would have sold it and not sell his daughter. Last option, before he goes and borrows cash from people. So
That's when he doesn't have a daughter. Then he.
I mean, after he sold his daughter and still has, right, or he doesn't have a daughter.
Or he doesn't have a daughter.
Very good. So we see from here that the father then does not sell his daughter unless big pressure. So he says, selling a daughter is like putting your ship in the middle of 7 wolves.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous thing you're going to do, right?
But can you buy the daughter back?
Yeah, you're allowed to. Yes.
You're allowed to?
Yes.
When you want to say you have money now?
Sure, yes. So what did the Torah tell us not to do? Leave that little girl alone. It says, Chas v'shalom, if you cannot sell your daughter, what is a girl 7, 8, 9, 10 years old going to do when there's no money in the house? There's no food in the house. They don't have a house. They sold their house. Nothing's left. You know what they do in Iran nowadays? Or in any country that they have. I'm sure in America too.
Yeah, of course.
Girls going to go make money. They have to pay. That's how they get paid. Hashem hated so much for that not to happen. He said, there's a better option. If she gets sold to a house, that the household father is going to do kindness to this girl, right? Even though we don't like a little girl to be a slave, but that's the best kindness. What you want her to do, with the cartels and traffickers, you want them to be involved with that? No. Hashem put this mitzvah, right, to save that family from a big shame and from that girl to go to very bad direction, which unfortunately nowadays, all the people who do the wrong things, they started from, there's some cash, and someone, played them, said, if you go with me, I give you cash. She didn't have cash, she had no money in the house, right? And Nebach, they went all the way. So he says that you have to understand, Hashem didn't want her to be sold, to be in Hebrew, melsarit, which says in English, waitress. Hashem didn't want her to be a waitress in someone else's house, right? Because that's not even siniut, it's not modesty for a girl and go serve a household. What do you need her for? Serving lunch, bring us food. That's what you buy a slave for, right? Clean our house, do our beds. It's not nice for a Jewish girl to do this thing for someone else's household. So Hashem wanted to save that girl and put her in a household who take care of her. So basically, Hashem is telling the owner, the buyer, you're only buying this girl if you're going to
Take care of her.
marry her or become your daughter-in-law. But Hashem is saying, if you didn't marry her, let her free. What does that mean? You cannot keep her longer. As soon as she is about age that she can get married, she's an adult. In Torah's a timeline, adult doesn't mean 18 or 25 marriageable age. It's like about 10, right? 10, 11, you could get married. I don't know, it depends on the nature of the girl. The body, as long as she's mature enough to get married, make up your mind. You want to marry her or you should send her free?
They don't do that right now. They don't do that this time. They don't get married.
No, but
right.
go back 50 years. That's what they did. No, 70. So now, the Torah is giving us a nice order. He says, when you sell your daughter as a slave, she's going to be meshubat. Meshubat means like under control, right? The husband will make, the owner will make decisions. So that would be for any marriage. People get married, the husband's going to make decisions. Is that a terrible thing if she gets sold a bit earlier? If they don't have money to keep her till she gets, to choose which husband she's going to choose. So Hashem wants like a more solid order, right? So I said, you know what? Let's expand the marriage for this girl a bit younger. Imagine she's getting married at 7 years old, 8 years old. The owner is going to take care of her. She will, he will manage her life. He will pay for it, right? She doesn't have to do bad things to survive. Eventually, they're going to get married and they're going to live like husband and wife. If she doesn't want to hire, he has to go free. She has to go free.
Does she have a choice?
At what point?
She has
when
a
she
choice
gets,
not to get married to him. She wants
I don't think she has a choice at this point. No,
she won't.
because she's as 8 years old.
But at the
She
time,
got-
at the time that she becomes a woman,
Right.
can get married, she has a choice.
When she had no money when she was 7, 8, or 6, and she's 12, I don't think she has more money. And if the owner of the household were kind enough and wealthy enough to take care of her for a couple of years, probably she wants to stay. I don't know if she has a choice. She has to say yes or no. I don't know.
I think
That's a different case.
What's the
That's the
best
case of
age
rape.
for a girl to get married these days?
Okay, that's a different story. Very, 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 very different. But one says another thing. Now he says that when do you buy a little girl as a Amma Ivriya, as a Jewish servant? That's only if you're going to help you marry her, right? Or marry her to your son. And imagine she comes from such a poor family, and she's going to marry a very wealthy family. He must be wealthy to own a slave, right? And pay for her
Must be.
to the. So can you imagine such a chesed, right? He would never ever find a shidduch from this type of family for his son, for himself. He was going to check into very wealthy families. Now he brought in a little girl who was otherwise going to do very bad things, stayed with him, and now married into the family. No, he says, so who would look for such a daughter-in-law from beginning? I don't want to bring her home. I have to marry her. I don't want. I want my son to marry her. I don't want. So most wealthy families would not want to have such a slave. So you're right. But you think every wealthy family have every perfect son in the house? No, there's a son who is a bit more, let's call it not outgoing, right? More reserved, more quiet. He has a hard time finding a shidduch anyways. Perfect match. You bring her home and say, the Torah told me to marry her. People say, why are you marrying such a poor girl to your family? Say, I'm doing a mitzvah, right? And you could not find a better match anyways.
Right.
And you save the embarrassment too. Your son got married, and you did a mitzvah, and perfect, right? So the best case scenario is when you bring her in, you marry her, or your son will marry her. If you don't have that in mind, what the Torah says,
let her go.
but Torah says some very harsh language. You cannot have control over her anymore. She goes free. Bevigdova, you betrayed her. Boged means someone you kick somebody else. No, you could kick against somebody, not physically.
Take advantage of.
You betrayed her. When you brought her to your house as a slave, you're supposed to take care of her.
That should have been your intention.
Only case you wanted to bring her. Why? Only to be a servant for you? And now you send her home? No, not marrying her? Not having your son marry her? What is that? So Torah does not like slavery. That's only the last option that a girl can survive. Family, never, the family cannot afford. Baruch Hashem, there's plenty of food, plenty of money, economy, perfect. You go some places that people cannot make ends meet, and they're, Baruch Hashem, they have a family. Terrible, terrible situation. They don't know how it's gonna, buy food for tomorrow. Jews or non-Jews, it's all over, right? You go back 80 years, 100 years.
If you're not a Jew, also.
No. This is only talking about Jewish. Jewish girl, of course. So now, so I want to go back to another point, which I started with. It says that 905. So it says that now the father was not too upset that he had to sell his daughter, right? It's better to sell her than to lose her. If you're going to lose her to a bad way, obviously it would be more embarrassing for the father to see his daughter doing wrong things because he couldn't afford paying her cash, right? So Hashem made a plan. He put her in a good house with good intention owner. Obviously, from what he said, that people are going to say you're betraying her. No one is going to come forward to take her as a slave unless he knows he's going to marry her. She's too young to get married. She's only 6, 7. But in a couple of years, he's going to marry her. Or his son is going to marry her. Right? The father will be happy. The daughter, the little girl is protected. And he will have some benefit. He will get a daughter-in-law for his son. Or for himself. A good wife for himself. But now, going back to the man. For a man to become a slave, that's a very big problem. Girl needs to be a slave. Hashem has a plan to stay there in the family of, the owner. For a man, Hashem wants him to be out as soon as possible. If he doesn't want to get out, your ear gets pierced. For the girl, Hashem has a plan to stay there for good, forever. If you kick her out, it's a big problem. For a man, the opposite. Why? Beautiful. It says, why a man becomes a slave? Technically 2 reasons. Either they have money or he stole, right. Why do people steal money?
They don't have money.
No, but what, stealing makes you better? Not always because they don't have money. Person could have, $5 million. He likes another $2 million, so he's going to steal. He doesn't have enough to pay back. He's going to become a slave. Doesn't have to be a poor person to become a slave. Could be a very rich guy.
Yeah, true.
Madoff stole how many $1 billion? Many, right? Didn't have enough money to pay back. Became a prisoner. So very unbelievable. It's such a simple thing to know, but we always forget. Stealing does not make you rich, right? He has a very long piece and a very beautiful piece. He says that someone says that let's first give a simple example. I need $200 to do something, right? And it goes to someone's house, or someone's store, someone's bank account, still $200. Still, Geneva. What do you think? I got $200. Things go by, perfect. Right?
You do it again.
So, but the problem is, Hashem would have given her the $200 anyways. If you believe, Kili b'nei Yisrael avadim, you are my servant, Hashem will take care of you anyways. What did you do? He said, Hashem cannot take care of me. I have to take care of myself. So the idea of a servant, you have to understand, when you have a slave, you have a lot of liability. Like nowadays, you have an employee. What happens to your employee? Insurance is going to come. Going to come after you. The court's going to come after you. You got an employee. You got to take care of your employee. That's why the employee insurances or there's a lot of hectic things you have to do for your employees. There are problems with employment because they're your employees. You have to take care of them. If Hashem has employees, Hashem has servants, Hashem has a nation. You think He's not going to take care of them? So if Hashem put me as a slave, I have no choice. I was born, right? Ani avdecha ben amotecha, we say in Hallel. I'm your servant, son of your female servant. My mother is your shivcha, your servant. I'm your servant. I have no choice. I was born like this. Hashem is not going to take care of me. When I go ahead and I steal money, she said, I was going to give you anyways. Right? I heard a beautiful story. There was somebody, a Gabbai in a shul, or a Rebbe would go to this Rebbe's desk and take money. Right? And he got caught. And the Rebbe asked him, why did you steal money from? He said, Rebbe, I didn't have money, I needed it. The only place I could find was your desk. He said, I was carrying the money to give it to you, but every time I wanted to give you, the money wasn't there. I was putting it in my desk to give it to you because I know you needed money. I forgot the details, but that's how the end of the story was. The Gabbai was stealing money from his own money, but now he got caught red-handed. The Rebbe found out. What is this? Now you can't be my Gabbai anymore. I don't trust you. I was gathering the money for you because I know you need money. But every time I wanted to give it to you, it wasn't there. I don't know who took it. And you're the one who took it. So when you steal money, I should say, I want to give it to you. You stole me. You stole from my. You were gonna make that $200 anyway. But now you're a thief. You're a servant, right? Also, if someone says, without stealing, I don't have money, right? If I'm servant to this guy, who will take care of me. Also, the lack of emunah to Hashem. He's going to take care of you more than me. You don't understand. I'm taking care of him. You're going to become my slave? Yeah, he's the same boat as you are. But we don't see it, unfortunately. Right? Some people think, if I do this, if I go through a lot of hardship, that will make me money. There's a Mishnah in Gemara Kiddushin says, job does not guarantee money. Look at the doctor. There's one doctor makes a lot of money, and the doctor makes no money. Doesn't make money. Doesn't have the mazel. Hashem is not sending for him. Whatever reason Hashem has. The same job, the same profession, the same type of treatment, and they both are doing a good job. Also he got a degree, not making the same money. See, every dentist gonna make tons of money. Every lawyer is gonna make money. Every real estate is gonna be. Every investment is gonna. But sometimes you think, I know, I'm making so much money. You forgot how much loans you have to pay. You cancel it out, you're left with just a couple of dollars. So people think, no, that's how I'm going to make money. They forget that everything's all for Hashem. Everyone's Hashem's servant. Hashem takes care of him, and Hashem takes care of you. Hashem wants to give you, will give you, in a regular way. You don't have to go through that, channel of getting money. So why Hashem doesn't do it for a lady? He wants her to be married, but doesn't want him to be married, because he says that the way Hashem puts the word is that a man has his own direct service to Hashem. You work for Hashem, Hashem gives you. Hashem never put that obligation directly on the woman. Why? Because once she gets married, she has to take care of the family anyways. Meaning, I don't know if I have a good example for it, but when you work for your husband, you're married to your husband, so he's going to take care of you, and that's how Hashem puts the word. That husbands should provide for the wife. America is a bit different. Some women provide more than men, but Hashem wanted him to be the provider. Right? The ish is the giver, the lady is the receiver. That's how Hashem wants. That's mostly a more healthy relationship too. Because if he is the receiver and the lady is the provider, there are problems. Many times things don't work out because she has a fair share, a better share than the husband, and then who's going to listen to who? Everyone wants to say, I'm right, I'm doing better. But so let's say a lady is married. She can't. The reason ladies are exempt from so many mitzvot because Hashem says you are already committed to the family. You have to take care of the husband. You have to take care of the kids. You have to homework, lunch, breakfast, carpool. Kids come home, they need their mom. So I put you 613 mitzvot. You have to wear tzitzit, tefillin. You have to read the Torah every time. Yeah, you have time. How the Rabbi said, we have one mitzvah the ladies have to do, and it makes our life and house so difficult. Megillah, a couple of weeks reading Megillah. The fact that ladies have to listen to Megillah is the hard mitzvah for us, because my home is up in the air. Maybe my wife is going to go to hear the Megillah. When I'm going to do it, my daughter have to hear it. 364 days a week, year, no problem. Everything is on a good schedule. The one day that she has to go to shul to hear Megillah, we got a big problem, right? So, but for a man, he has no obligation to anybody. Do every mitzvah yourself. Now you want to go find the owner for yourself to support you without stealing. Just, I want to be your slave. Hashem hates it. Get out of here. I take care of you just like I take care of him. You think he's going to take care of you better than he's getting sustenance from me. What are you doing? Hashem hates Eved Ivri. Hashem does not like idea of a Jewish man become a servant. That's not his role. That's not should be emunah, system, belief system. But a lady, unfortunately, has no other choice. A little girl that the father sold everything before her. That's the best choice. But eventually, she's going to get married and be committed to the family and work for the family. So, when I started a couple of years earlier and save a lot of bad behaviors from that girl. So, looking at this Parsha, instead of saying, "Oh, Hashem was so mean to this little girl," say, "Oh, Hashem was so kind. Such a good plan." Right? I never appreciated this mitzvah until I read Rabbi Feinstein, the Shiva. Have you met him before? Yes, it's very Rav Moshe's son, his eldest son of Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe was the biggest gadol, but he was second to the biggest. And after the father, he pretty much took over answering all the questions in America. Maybe not like Rav Moshe, but he was one of the main ones. Rabbi David Feinstein. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share. Beautiful thoughts on the Parsha. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Today at 5
Thank you, Rabbi.
5:20 with Hashem.